Alright, Jammer here with a review of Wild Guns, being played here on the Wii U, downloaded from the eShop for about $8, though it is also available from the Wii Virtual Console. If you want to play the original SNES cart from Natsume though, expect to spend well over $100 for that, since it's extremely rare apparently. It's one of only a small number of gallery shooters where the player is also responsible for maneuvering his or her character on screen to avoid enemy bullets and attack close-range enemies. And in fact, there are so few games of its type that the subgenre that it belongs to is referred to by the earliest title of its kind, Cabal, as Cabal shooters. Kind of like how when first-person shooters were a new idea, those were often called Doom clones. Even fewer are the examples of this kind of game on a home console, and the only one that I know of for the SNES, though semi-on-rail shooters like Star Fox have some similarities, but I will admit that that comparison is kind of a stretch. So okay, it's an interesting game for its gameplay style. How well does it play? Well, extremely well. The D-pad controls the aiming reticule on screen and moves the character left and right when the shoot button is not being pressed. Hold the shoot button while on the ground, and the character remains in place while the aiming reticule is still adjustable. The player is given a brief indication where most enemy bullets are about to land, so he or she can move to avoid the shots by jumping and double jumping while moving, or rolling out of the way by jumping while firing. The player can also shoot down some enemy bullets either with similar fire or with the lasso, which is activated by rapidly tapping the shoot button. Now, while it is difficult and quite risky to hit a target with the lasso, it can be a worthwhile strategy for incapacitating the more mobile enemies and bosses. While I wasn't able to play a two-player game for this review, I can bet that it's extremely fun and enhanced as a two-player game, with one player perhaps lassoing some enemies while the other one fires away. That being said, I imagine for two players the difficulty might want to be bumped up to hard, though it's probably a lot more hectic. I should mention though that as a one-player game, it's quite tough, especially when going for a high score, even on normal difficulty, and it's a game that definitely demands repeat gameplay and memorization on top of, as you might imagine, skill. The visual style of the game is also pretty impressive, a kind of futuristic yet Wild West steampunk aesthetic that isn't something that I've seen on the SNES before. Cuteness was watching me play a bit, and we talked a bit about how it might seem less out of place on the Sega Genesis, and I do kind of think of Streets of Rage for some reason, but the overblown style, super detailed sprites, and arcade sensibility just scream Neo Geo to me, and I can imagine this game being right at home in one of those 4-game Neo Geo arcade cabinets. A fair amount of NES games use the D-pad for controlling first-person shooting segments, like in Vice Project Doom or this pretty strange but also pretty interesting game, Golgo 13, with varying success. Vice Project Doom makes it work since it adds variety, but in general I would say that D-pad controlling a gallery shooter, that isn't that fun, and it really isn't enough to carry a game. However, Wild Guns and similar titles do make it work by forcing the player to multitask and keep an eye not only on aiming, but also on dodging. And this makes for a very exciting, high energy, and fun game. If this kind of game interests you, I would also recommend you take a look at the Sin and Punishment games for the Wii. So, I highly recommend this game as a downloadable title, and to fans of on-rails and gallery shooters in particular. I may also try and track down or download some more Natsume games as well, as I remember Pocky and Rocky being a really fun two-player shooter also, but it's also very expensive, so I'm not sure if I'll actually be able to find that. Well, have a good one.